Why are some people successful at dropping weight and keeping it off? And why do some people just keep failing over and over again? So before I dive into those successful traits of successful people, I want you to know that these traits, characteristics, behaviors are all things that need to be practiced.
Welcome to the Dr. Ashley Show.
Welcome to the Dr. Ashley Show. I'm Dr. Ashley, and today we are going to dive into an episode where I answer a question that I get commonly from our weight loss clients. And it's a great question because it relates to everything, and it's why are some people successful at dropping weight and keeping it off, and why do some people just keep failing over and over again? So before I dive into those successful traits of successful people, I want you to know that these traits, characteristics, behaviors are all things that need to be practiced. They're traits that, just like going to the gym and working out your muscles, improve with repetition and practice. The same thing goes here. I explain this muscle concept to clients at PhD all the time, and it has to do with cravings as just an example. When we have cravings, there are lots of different tactics that can help you to overcome them. But one thing is to imagine that you've got these two muscles going on. You've got this give in, give up muscle where you give in to the craving. And then you've got this resistance, I can do this muscle. And generally, when people start a weight loss program, their give in, give up, gosh, I'm just going to eat this muscle is really strong because you've been practicing it a lot. If you're gaining weight, then you're also giving into those cravings because we all have cravings, right? So what we have to practice is that resistance, I can do it muscle. And you've got to practice that over and over and over again. So these traits, these behaviors that I'm going to talk about that allow for people to succeed in weight loss and keeping it off all need to be practiced, just like going to the gym and working that muscle, just like our weight loss clients work that, gosh, I can do this resistance muscle against the cravings. So number one is you've got to be mission driven. And what I mean by mission driven is that you've got to have a very strong why. And oftentimes to have a strong why, it's got to be bigger than you. And this mission can relate to everything. It can relate to health and weight loss, business, relationship. For me, my mission is to positively impact as many people as possible. I have such a passion to help people improve their life. I want to help those who want to give back to society, who want to be active and involved, who want to be here for their kids and their grandkids, who don't want to be on some experimental drug because of brain degeneration. You know, if you think about it, from our life experience, we're here on Earth, and we're experiencing life in our physical body. And I know that my mission, no matter what happens, is to help people experience that best physical experience in their life possible. And because I have such a strong mission and a strong purpose, when challenges come up, which they do, I can overcome them. I can work through them. You know, Tony Robbins always says that you've got to be prepared for winter. Winter is a season of life in our business, our relationships, everything. And if we don't have a really strong mission, if we don't have a strong why, then when winter comes, when challenges comes, we give up and we give in. So when you're dropping weight, it's no different than anything else. And you've got to have that really strong, passionate why. And I see a common theme in our weight loss clients at PhD Weight Loss that they always have a why that includes themselves and includes others. So I thought that I could just share the story about Tim, one of our clients, who now is actually a coach at PhD. But he said it so well, I want you to hear his story from his mouth.
My biggest obstacle when I started the program was, one, the cost, and two, the time commitment. It would alter my lifestyle, my schedule, everything for the next year. But I knew I needed to do something. My weight had gotten so bad, I went ahead and took on the cost, even though it really wasn't in my budget, because I knew I had to do something that badly. Nothing else seemed to work. If I continue to ignore it, which I've done the last 20 years, I'm more than likely to be starting insulin because I was pre-diabetic. And also I was going through radiation, or scheduled to go through radiation for prostate cancer, which I was unable to do because they called me at the last minute and said I was too big for their table. Well, that was a real gut punch, but it was also a wake-up call, which was, it actually turned out to be a blessing. There's not a cost I can put on that. The cost of insulin probably would have paid for my program alone. But when you add on to that, may not be able to go through radiation, you can't put a cost on something like that. So I heard on the radio the last several months about the PhD program. Several of the on-air guys had done it, had great success. Figured, well, I'm at the end, I've got to try something, which I did. And staff there were so accommodating. They were so helpful. We ended up negotiating. I put a down payment down, and then I paid each week when I went in, just to be able to start the program and get going. Within 2 to 3 months, I was so excited about it. I had such good results. I felt so good. I myself went ahead and found a way to pay for the whole program just so I could go in with no negative connotations. I could go in positive, and everything would be going forward, not looking back, to accomplish what I needed to accomplish. It worked out well. But keep in mind, I had to lose 150 pounds. So today, I've only lost 130. I feel so much better. I'm very confident that I'm going to get the other 20. I'll get into maintenance, and I will never, ever go back to where I was. I had lived over half of my life very unhealthy. So the year commitment to my schedule was really nothing to reverse or repair 20 plus years of very unhealthy living. And it actually turned out to be just the opposite. I liked the structure of it, the schedule, the Sunday meal plan got me set for the week. There was no, second guessing or impulse meals, whatever. I knew what I was going to schedule. So I really liked the structure of my meal plan. And for me, it wasn't even so much, well, it was what I ate or what I was eating, but it was also when I was eating. And, I guess during COVID, I picked up bad habits, and now I don't. I don't think I've had fast food since January 2nd. I'm glad to spend the money again. It turned into the year of meat, even though I've still got a little bit more to go. I feel great. I feel terrific. I have more energy than I have had in decades. And I just can't say enough about what they've helped me with and done for me at the Charlotte PhD.
So I want to share a few more whys, and you can see a common theme in them that includes themselves, but also those who mean a lot to them. So Larry, he's one of our clients, and he came in because he's getting ready to go on a 2-week trip to Europe with his mom, his wife, and his mother-in-law. And he knew that all 3 of those ladies would outwalk him, and he was also really concerned about the really long trip to Europe. So he came in and he knew that he wanted to have better energy, and he also wanted to be able to sit on the flight, but he also wanted to have his family be able to enjoy the trip with him. So not only is he now going on this amazing trip to Europe, and he's going to be able to outwalk everyone who he's with, but he's also down 16 pounds in 18 weeks. So that's amazing. I also have a client, Lauren, and she came in because she wanted to be at a healthier weight for IVF. And we get this a lot, people coming in because they have fertility issues, and we can see fertility significantly improve as they create a shift in their metabolism and drop this weight. And so for her, she came in, referred in from her mother, who had tremendous impact in working with us at PhD. She dropped over 90 pounds, and she encouraged her daughter to come in. So her daughter is now 20 pounds down. She's got about 10 more pounds to go, and then she's going to go in for her IVF treatment. And her why is because she wanted to get her body in a healthy place for herself, but also for her baby to come. She wanted her baby to be in an environment that was going to be healthy, have good blood glucose levels, low inflammation, and reduce the risk of her daughter to be obese as well. Because we know that if we are pregnant and we're struggling with obesity, that fetus, that baby is going to be at higher risk of developing it too. So you'll see that theme with Larry, with Tim, with Lauren. They all are deciding to drop this weight, not just because it impacts themselves, but because it impacts the people who are important around them. The second trait of successful people who drop weight and keep it off is that they have an abundance mindset over a scarcity mindset. So an abundance mindset is one that is more nourishing, that focuses on what's right rather than what's wrong. So if I were to read something of an abundant mindset, it might be, I choose to eat healthy, be fit, and I love how it feels. Or I'm losing this weight effortlessly and my plan works. It's pretty darn easy. That's more of an abundant, positive mindset that you've got to have to be successful at dropping weight and keeping it off. A scarcity mindset is more like, I hate the foods I have to eat. I can't stand to eat another vegetable, and I can't stand to look at meat anymore. It might be, my husband can eat this and I can't eat this. It's unfair. I'm just going to eat what he can because I want to enjoy everything that he gets to enjoy. Another scarcity mindset that I might hear from clients is this plan is never going to work. I'm never going to be able to drop this weight, and I'm only going to be able to get to X weight, say 160 pounds. I'll never be able to achieve my goal weight. Remember that your brain is like a computer, and the words that you use program that computer. So if you speak to yourself in the scarcity negative mindset, then that's going to be just exactly what you experience. Whereas if you talk to yourself in this abundance mindset, then that's what your experience will be. So it's wise for you to choose exactly what you want and to speak to yourself so that your body moves in that direction. I had 2 clients come into PhD and they had about the same amount of weight to drop. And one at the 3-week mark came in and was just like, oh my gosh, I love this program. I love how these vegetables are giving me my life back. I'm down 12 pounds and I'm feeling so much better. I can't believe my clothes don't fit and I cannot wait to go shopping and buy new clothes. The second client came in and said at the 3-week mark, down about the same amount of weight, oh my gosh, if you tell me to eat another salad, I'm just going to kill myself. I can't do it. I'm so deprived and my clothes don't fit and I'm so bummed that I have to go spend money and buy new clothes. So if you think about it, which client do you think is going to have long-term success? The one with the abundant mindset. Part of the scarcity mindset is falling into the pit of comparison. Theodore Roosevelt said, comparison is the thief of joy, and it is so true, and it is everywhere in our world. You look at social media, at TV, and it's not real life that's portrayed, and it is so easy for us to feel negative about ourselves and to fall into this negative pit of comparison. It comes up in weight loss all the time. So check in with yourself to see if you fall into that pit, but it would be like, gosh, my husband can eat the bread and he can eat the ice cream. I can't. It's so unfair. Or maybe you compare yourself to your neighbor or your friend who can drink a ton of alcohol and not put on the weight. But there are a lot of issues with comparison. When you compare yourself to other people, you actually give away your energy. You give away your power to the person you're comparing yourself with. It's a really big deal, and it's not going to allow you to eventually succeed and keep the weight off at all. So you've got to dig yourself out of the pit of comparison. Also, you understand that the grass is always greener. It looks better always on someone else or for someone else. But if you use the example of food, you have no idea that your friend who can drink a lot of alcohol and stay lean has terrible sleep and terrible heartburn and acne as a result. Or your husband or wife who can eat the bread and the pizza and not put on weight has a ton of inflammation in their body and isn't feeling their best either. So dig yourself out of the pit of comparison. And there are a few tips that I want to give you to help. Number 1 is understand what your strengths are and focus on those. Number 2 is to know who you are inside and out so that you know what you stand for. So no matter what comes your way, if you're true in who you are, you're not going to fall over and succumb to the other stories and looking at the grass as being greener somewhere else. And lastly, know who you want to grow to be and focus on that. You can only do your best if you're focused on being your best. I love this quote by Bob Goff, and I want to read it to you. We won't be distracted by comparison if we are captivated by purpose. You've got to find your purpose. You've got to be mission-driven and dig yourself out of the pit of comparison. I have a personal story that I want to share with you about comparison. Some of you know that I was a professional ballet dancer back in the day, and I went to a boarding school for ballet when I was a senior in high school. And this boarding school was super competitive, and only the best young dancers were invited to attend. I have no idea how I was invited to attend, but somehow, by the grace of God, I was. Everyone there was from South America, France, handpicked from America, Russia. I mean, they were the best young dancers in the world, and somehow I landed there. It was a really tough year for me, and I constantly compared myself to the other students in my class just because I felt that I was inadequate and I wasn't as nearly as good as they were. There was one dancer there in particular who just became my best friend, and I love her to this day. And first off, for you to understand, the career of dancing is really, really difficult physically. So you can only do it for so long. So you want to, as a dancer, get into dancing with a professional ballet company as quickly as possible because your years are limited. Think of it like a gymnast. You know, they're not going to be out there in the Olympics. Well, most people won't be out there in the Olympics like at 30 years old. You got to be in your teens, your young 20s, or else you just don't have a chance to keep up with the other younger girls and boys who are coming up. So for dancing, the same thing goes. And there are different tracks that you can take. First, you can be real good, like all of the dancers in the school that I was, where you get into a professional dance company and you start your career. You also want to get in the company pretty quickly because you have to usually wait out your turn a few years in the company to get a principal role and then be able to get all of best roles and get paid a little bit better, although the pay is never very good when you're a dancer. Another option is to go to a college and get your degree in dancing, which, by the way, I have no idea what you do with a dancing degree. I've got one. And to go on and earn my PhD in sports nutrition, I had to go all the way back and take all of these undergraduate classes to be able to be accepted into that. I had to start over. But anyway, I digress. You can go get your collegiate degree in ballet performance. Now, usually the most talented kids do not do this because it's wasting those really important years where you want to be in a company. So for me, I did a lot of different auditions, hundreds of auditions, and I was accepted into maybe a few companies, but they weren't at the level that I wanted to be. And so I decided to go and get my degree in ballet. And so this really beautiful, amazing dancer who I mentioned earlier got a job with Ballet West, and I got accepted into the University of Utah. So we were together and we decided to be roommates. And oh my gosh, you know, there are some people where they just take a step and angels sing. She'd jump and oh my gosh, the angels would just sing hallelujah. It was the most beautiful position you could experience. She would kick her leg and it would go up and just hang out right by her head. Whereas I would jump and your head would tilt and be like, oh, we should try that again. Or I would kick and the leg would go up there and then kind of straight down to the ground. Now, I'm being a little bit tough on myself. If I were to rank myself with all of the dancers in the world, I'd probably still be in the top 5%. But comparatively speaking to my friend, she was amazing. And it's not that she didn't work at it, but you know how some people are just naturally beautiful, like J-Lo. She was like the J-Lo version of ballet dancer here. And we were roommates and it was so tough for me. And I spent the first semester just comparing myself to her in every way. She had 6-pack abs and I had the 1-pack. She would survive on Costco macaroni and cheese and just look beautiful while eating packs of the macaroni and cheese. And I was counting every single calorie. She would get all the guys. That's where I met my husband, and I was really tough. He had to pursue me for many months to go on a date. And while he was continuing to try to do that, he's like, hey, if you don't want to go with me, maybe your roommate would. I mean, it was that bad. And it was really tough. And I had a really depressed, terrible first semester of my college experience. And I read this book, and this was, 20 years ago, so it's pretty much dating me here. And I haven't read it in 20 years, so I don't know why it made such a big impact on me, but it was Conversations with God. And something about that book changed my entire trajectory. It changed my mindset right in an instant. And I started to think of myself differently. I started to think about my strengths, what I was good at, what my talents were, that I could do all different forms of dance, not just ballet, that there were other opportunities for me, and I started to get the lead roles. I was Juliet in Romeo and Juliet. I was offered the opportunity to audition to perform in the opening ceremonies of the Olympics, and I got it. Probably 1% of the dancers, less than that in the world, even asked to audition. And here I got to perform right alongside the Dixie Chicks in the largest watched venue of all performing in the world. And so nothing changed in my outer environment. I changed inside. My mindset shifted, and I pulled myself out of the pit of comparison so that I could actually experience the greatness that I had inside me. And I love my friend, and she's the most beautiful thing, but now I feel confident right beside her. Number 3 is that these successful people are results-driven and outcome-focused. So what I mean by that, and I know this from the thousands of people who we've worked with at PhD, is that when people come in, we help them create specific outcomes and specific results. They know the exact amount of weight that they're dropping. They know exactly how long it's going to take. They understand that this meal plan is very specific and that they've got to follow it to a T. They can't deviate. They can't wing it. So you want to make sure that you're results-driven and outcome-focused, that you have a very clear plan and you're not going to continue to deviate, but you have consistency in your actions to drive to those desired results. Number 4, they've got non-negotiables. And what I mean by that is they have specific things that they do consistently every day, no matter what. They follow their meal plan to a T. They write down what they're eating in a food journal. Research shows that folks who keep a food journal drop 50% more weight and see much more success than those who don't write their food down. Now, I don't love trackers, and we'll get into this in another episode. I think it causes a lot of headspace issues there. So I'm not saying that you need to count calories or can't count macros, but what I am saying is you need to jot down what you're eating and when, just to hold yourself accountable and understand if what you're doing is actually working. They walk every single day or move their body somehow every day for 30 minutes. Not 5 days a week, but 7 days a week they are active. Now, I don't want you to think that you have to be super active or participate in chronic cardio to drop the weight and keep it off. Exercise is a really great wellness tool. It's not a huge weight loss tool. You do have to move to get your lymph moving throughout the day. Your lymph is in charge of recycling your metabolic waste and getting your metabolism going. So moving is important, but I do want to share a story with you just to show you that if you do have a disability or you're hurting and you can't move, that you can still see success, no excuses. We have a client, Sherry, and she's actually now a team member at PhD as well. We impacted her life on such a positive level that she wanted to create the same positive impact in the lives of others. And she struggled with a disability where she couldn't move very well. And that was one of her big whys, was because she wanted to be as strong and capable to move her body and be as agile as possible. So she actually dropped 60 pounds without moving very much. And if you ask her today, she is so happy that she made the change because now she's able to get her body around, move up and down stairs, whereas before it was such a struggle. So if you can't move a ton, that's okay, but you still have to have a non-negotiable in there associated with getting your body as active as it can be. Other non-negotiables for successful weight loss clients are maintaining a stress management practice, meditating, journaling, prayer, getting out in nature, whatever that might be. They also prioritize their sleep. Sleeping more than 7 hours a night is so imperative to dropping weight and keeping it off. So what I want you to do is to create a list of your non-negotiables and stick to them. Number 5 is they embrace delayed gratification. So they do the work and then they understand they'll experience the outcome. There is no magic pill. There is no quick fix. The only way out is through. And this goes for everything in your life, including weight loss and changing your health. A lot of folks use different types of gimmicks or fad diets or juice cleanses or injections. There's a lot of this Ozempic, Wegovy, tirzepatide out there. And I'm not saying that these aren't helpful tools for some people, but you're not going to see sustainable long-term results if you don't do the work with it. So you've got to make sure that you put in the work, you're not afraid to do hard things, and then you'll be able to experience the outcome. When you embrace delayed gratification, you control your impulses. So an example of this would be, let's say you're walking down the street downtown and you see this ice cream store. If you have the ability to embrace delayed gratification, you've got your non-negotiables, and you're results driven, then you're not going to just randomly spontaneously pop into the ice cream store and get a random ice cream, right? That's not a part of your plan. You've got to think about how those foods are going to affect you now and later, not just the now. Number 6 is they get into a creation state. I've talked about this before, but your energy has got to match the energy of nature. And nature's energy is one of growth and creation. So for you, you want to get your body and your mindset in that same practice. So I want you to think about what your next goal might be. What is that next thing that's going to push you to continue to achieve and to continue to grow? Ask yourself where you're going to go from here. I hate the name maintenance. If you think about maintenance, it's actually going to lead to destruction because you're not growing anymore. So if you have dropped the weight, in order to be able to keep it off, you've got to continue to be in this growth creation mindset. The general rule to help you here is to consume less and create more. In today's society, we consume all the time. We're consuming social media, we're consuming food and alcohol, medication, news. I mean, we're always consuming, and we don't create as much as we consume anymore. So what I want you to think about is, how can you give back? How can you give back to yourself? How can you give back to society, friends, the people who you love, your family? Create more and consume less. And number 7 is that successful people have accountability. They understand the importance of having an outside perspective to help them achieve success. There's this stigma in society associated with weight loss specifically that we should be able to do it on our own. But it just increases our general level of stress, and it doesn't allow for success. You know, dropping weight is no different than anything else. If you look at someone who's successful in business, for example, they likely have a coach. I've got so many coaches, from business to relationships to my own self and life. But for some reason, we think that it's negative to have someone from a weight loss perspective, but it isn't. Weight loss is so complicated. It's much more complicated than calories in and calories out. I mean, think of it from an athletic perspective. There's no athlete, even a recreationally active athlete, that doesn't have a coach. A coach can help you have an outside perspective. Otherwise, there's just too much emotion involved, and we get lost in our own stories and our own negative thoughts. We might, for example, switch from one diet to the next. We give 1 week to do Weight Watchers, and then we get tired of counting their complex point system, and so we move on to the next thing, which might just be vegan, and then we figure out, well, that's not enough protein, and I'm dropping muscle mass, so I need to do the next thing, and we keep moving on, and we don't have consistent action, so we don't see overall success. In order to see long-term success, no matter what you do, weight loss including, you've got to have accountability and support. All right, so that is the formula to success, and I've seen it work over a decade of helping thousands of people drop weight and keep it off. In general, they've just committed to their success. They've committed to themselves. They're obsessed with continued learning and growth, and their success wasn't obvious at the beginning of their journey. So if that's the case for you, you don't see success, you haven't seen success in your past, that is totally normal, and it's the same for these folks. You just need to continue to go and commit to mastery, because that's how excellence is achieved. I hope that you got value from this episode. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe and comment below. I read them and respond to all of them, and I want us to have a dialogue. If you're listening to this on a podcast platform like Spotify, please follow and leave a review. And you know what you could do is take a screenshot of this and tag me, mention me, write a comment, something like that, so the algorithm picks up, because we are changing the trajectory of this world. You know, we are the fattest and sickest we've ever been, and it doesn't have to be that way, but we need to do this together. It just takes one person at a time, but we all need this help. We all need to be fitter and healthier, mentally, emotionally, physically, so please share, and I can't wait to see you on the next episode. Remember, you've got to step up and make the change. Lead with your heart, train your mind, but don't negotiate with your body. See you next time.